All right, class, welcome to Lecture 5, the United States Constitution and Bill of Rights. Before we get started, I want to remind you of a couple things. First, you want to write down not just what is on the screen, but also the words that I am saying. And secondly, I'm going to start having an objective. So by the end of the lecture, you should be able to describe or explain or identify what the objective is. Your objective for this lecture is to be able to describe the type of government we have, and then be able to identify the four amendments that I talk about. So without further ado, first thing that we created after the Declaration of Independence in 1776 is we started creating a motto. And our motto is this seal, or this picture, and you're going to see that like on all our money, any government form or official saying, it'll often have this saying, which is e pluribus unum, which means out of many, one. So we have many people, we have many states, and we are all going to act as one through the federal government. And it is just our United States motto. So after the Declaration of Independence was issued in 1776, we fought the Revolutionary War against England, and we won. So after we won, we need to create a federal government, we need to create a government for the United States. So the first thing we did was we created the Articles of Confederation. It was our first constitution. It was a very weak constitution, because there was no real central power. The colonists came over from England, where there was a very strong central power in King George. And because of that, the colonists did not want a central power, so they created a very weak federal government on purpose, and it backfired. It didn't work. So 1787, they have a constitutional convention, and their whole goal is to fix the Articles of Confederation. How are they going to do that? They're going to use Enlightenment ideas, Locke, Montesquieu, Voltaire, those guys you guys just learned about, and they're going to use those ideas to create a government that would be long-lasting and serve people the best. They disagreed on many things, and eventually they all compromised. And they compromised to create a constitution and government we have today. As you all know, we have a republic form of government with a strong central government, but states still do have rights. Now, the person behind the Constitution that we have today was James Madison. He is known as the father of the United States Constitution. He's the real author, writer of the Constitution. He wrote most of the Bill of Rights, and he actually served as our president, our fourth president of the United States. Now, we are a federal system. We have a federal government, which that means is that it's a national government, and that oversees a lot of our day-to-day operations. It is located in Washington, D.C., and that holds power over our state governments, like Sacramento. There's 50 states. We have 50 state governments. The federal government is the most important. President of the United States, as you can see in the picture there, Obama, has more power or holds power over state governors such as Arnold Schwarzenegger. He used to be our governor. Now it is Governor Jerry Brown. But the states still do have a lot of power. They control many things. But when there is a conflict between the two, it is most of the time going to go to the federal or national government. Now, we created a checks and balance system at the Constitutional Convention to prevent one branch of government or one person of government to get too strong. The founders created a checks and balances type system. So there's three different parts of our national or federal government. We have the legislative branch, which is Congress, the House of Representatives, the Senate, and they write laws and they issue money. They are in charge of balancing the budget and making sure that we are on target and on schedule to pay for everything. We have the executive branch. That's simply the President of the United States. He can veto a law, so if Congress proposes a law, the President doesn't like it, he can veto it. It does not have to sign it into law. Then you have the judicial branch, which is our judges, Supreme Court judges, and every other judge. They are part of the judicial branch, and they can overturn a law. They can say that laws are unconstitutional, and because of that, we are not going to allow that law to be in. We are not going to allow that law to be. That way, you prevent one branch from gaining too much power. Now, whose idea was this? You guys should know this. If you don't, look at your previous lecture about the Enlightenment. We go over whose ideas was this. He had a famous quote saying, "Power should be a check to power," and that's where we get the idea of checks and balances from. The Bill of Rights was added to the Constitution. Now, the Constitution is how the government's going to work, that type of thing. The Bill of Rights is meant to protect the rights of the individual. And majority rule can't take away natural-born rights. So, as John Locke said, people are born with the right to life, liberty, and property, and no matter, and nobody can take that away from you. Not if the majority of people want to. That's where the judicial branch will come in and say, no, you can't do that. It is unconstitutional. And who had the idea of born with natural rights? I just talked about that, John Locke. The First Amendment, among many things, First Amendment allows for the freedom of expression. That includes freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, allows people to protest peacefully against government or really anything they want. People can protest if they want, and that is all allowed in the First Amendment. If you remember, the Enlightenment thinker that inspired the First Amendment would be Voltaire. He was an advocate for many of these things. The next amendment that is crucial is the Second Amendment, and it's basically the one that says we have the right to own a gun. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Infringed means taken away from us. So we can go through the proper channels, register those types of things, and we can have guns. Back in the day, there was militia. Right now, in today's world, we don't need a militia. We have state government, or we have army and those types of things to protect ourselves. But the Second Amendment does allow for people to own a gun. Next amendment that come into most people's lives is the Fourth Amendment, and this is basically the right to privacy, that the government, the police, cannot just go searching in your house for no reason. They must there are no unreasonable searches and seizures, that a warrant shall be issued among probable cause, and the warrant must have what am I looking for? The warrant must describe the place to be searched. So if you get pulled over, you cannot get by a cop. He cannot search you without probable cause. If there is probable cause, he has the right to search you. But just if you're abiding by the law and he just wants to come over, she wants to come over and search you, they can't do that because there is no probable cause. And the final amendment that comes into most people's lives is the Eighth Amendment. And this is excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishment. Yes, that's a typo. Should be UNUSUAL. Unusual punishment inflicted. And hopefully you remember the Enlightenment philosopher that influenced the writing of the Eighth Amendment. And that is it. Capital punishment and torture.